Have you ever stopped and looked at the world as it is right now and felt like something doesn't quite add up? Not just politics, not just money, but the structure of it all. The endless cycles of war, the invisible systems deciding who rises and who falls. The feeling that power is always one step removed, never fully seen. What if that feeling isn't paranoia? What if it's memory? What if the version of history you were taught didn't just leave things out, but intentionally buried the part that explains who has always been in control? This idea of hidden authority shaping humanity from the shadows is something ancient texts hint at repeatedly, and it's a theme explored deeply in a book called The Mark, which connects these early systems of control to the modern world. The beginning history doesn't like to talk about. The story doesn't begin in Rome, it doesn't begin in Greece, and it definitely doesn't begin in modern democracy. It begins in Sumer, the first known civilization. The Sumerians didn't say humans invented kingship. They said kingship descended from the heavens, and the beings responsible for that order were called the Anunnaki. Who the Anunnaki were, according to the texts. The Anunnaki were not vague spirits. They had names, ranks, bloodlines, jurisdictions. They were described as descendants of heaven and earth, and their role was simple. They judged mankind. They decided who ruled, who served, who labored, who prospered. This wasn't mythology meant to inspire. It was record-keeping. What's unsettling is how familiar this structure feels. If you've ever wondered why power still flows downward through unseen hierarchies, that pattern is traced step by step in the Mark, from ancient decrees to modern systems. Judgment, not worship. One detail often gets ignored. The Sumerians didn't describe humans as equals to the gods, and they didn't describe the Anunnaki as loving creators. They described a system. Humans existed inside it. The gods issued decrees. Kings enforced them. The people worked. That hierarchy didn't evolve. It was installed. The Sumerian king list, the problem document. There is a reason this text is rarely discussed in detail. The Sumerian king list states plainly that the earliest rulers were not like later ones. They ruled for thousands of years, not metaphorically, numerically. Then, suddenly, something changes. Later kings live normal lifespans. The text itself knows the difference, which raises an uncomfortable question. Why exaggerate only the beginning? This is where many people begin to sense that history is layered, edited. The Mark examines this exact moment, where divine rule fades from view, but control itself never disappears. Enter Zecharia Sitchin, but not in the way you're used to. In the 20th century, Zecharia Sitchin re-examined these ancient texts and proposed something radical. He suggested the Anunnaki were not gods in a spiritual sense, but advanced beings connected to a celestial realm later associated with Nibiru. His interpretation focused heavily on physical arrival, technology, and resources. Mainstream academia rejected his conclusions. But here's the part that never gets addressed. Even if Sitchin got the mechanics wrong, the structure described in the texts remains untouched. A ruling class from above, a managed human population, a system of judgment and control. That part is not controversial. It's written. What if they never left? This is where the real question begins. Power doesn't disappear. It transfers. The Anunnaki didn't need to remain visible to rule. Visibility creates resistance. Invisibility creates obedience. So the system evolved. Gods became divine kings. Kings became royal bloodlines. Bloodlines became financial dynasties. Dynasties became institutions. Same hierarchy, different masks. This transition from gods to systems is one of the central ideas behind the mark. Not a story about the past, but about how ancient authority learned to survive by becoming invisible. Modern judgment looks different. The Anunnaki judged mankind. Today, judgment is automated. Credit scores, surveillance systems, digital ID, economic access, algorithmic visibility. You are still being measured, still being ranked, still being permitted or denied. Only now the judges are unseen, and you're told the system is neutral. Why this knowledge is considered forbidden? Because it reframes everything. If the Anunnaki were just myth, then modern power is accidental. But if the Anunnaki were the architects of control, then history is not a story of freedom, it's a story of management. And humanity has always been the workforce. So the question isn't whether the Anunnaki were gods or aliens or something else entirely. The real question is simpler. Why does the world still run exactly like the system they described? And why does power still come from somewhere you're not allowed to see? If this video resonated and you want to explore how these ancient control systems echo directly into the modern world, I've left links in the description to The Mark. Read it slowly. It's not meant to shock you. It's meant to explain things you've always felt but couldn't quite name.